Well, Elon Musk says it's going to happen, and if it does, it will break the internet. But we're talking Joe Rogan, Donald Trump. Holy moly. Again, Elon Musk is alluding to the fact that it is going to happen. This is now making its way around the internet in a very big way. More to follow on that one. We're going to discuss it today. We're also going to talk about Trump and how he's addressing some of his favorability issues, in particular with women. This is a pretty interesting take for him. It's a pretty interesting step, but I think it's an important one because women are about 60% voting Democrat. Then we're going to talk about what the topic that is on the tips of the tongues of every single Democrat and has been for the past 4 years, and that is that when Donald Trump was trying to get them not to certify the election, that was an affront to the American people and it was an attack on our democracy. And yet now we've got some Democrats saying if Donald Trump gets elected, we might not certify the election. I hope we can all see the hypocrisy in this, but we're going to talk about this and so much more. Let's go for it. I'm Jared. This is Continue Freedom. Well, hello, friends. Welcome back. If you are a returning guest, I want to thank you so much for coming back because you all are the ones that are helping us on this road to 10,000. I truly appreciate it. Now, if you're a new guest, welcome aboard. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you're notified every time a new video is released. Just so you all know, if you're brand new here, I do keep these videos under about 30 minutes, or I try to. And it's just a way for you to get some quick information. You can get my opinion on it and then move on with your day. So go ahead. It's free. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and hit me with a like. Those are also great, and comments as well. So let's talk about the thing that might just break the internet. We saw 260-some million people on the Elon Musk, Donald Trump X space that they had several months ago, and it was unbelievable. 260 million people. And yeah, okay, we can say, hey, how long were people listening? How many people were there live? I think there was like 20 million people that were on live. When I was on it, I was listening to it, and it was fantastic. It was very entertaining. But then there were the plays after the fact. It got 200 and some odd million. It was unbelievable. But would the Joe Rogan, and this is what I want you to put in the comments, would the Joe Rogan Donald Trump podcast absolutely smash those numbers? Because we're talking about the biggest podcast in the world. And we know that it would break all of Joe Rogan's numbers. But would this one actually break the internet? Are the number of people listening to Spotify and all that, are they comparable to what we got on an X Spaces? I think for a long-form podcast, this would 100% break the internet. And here we go. By the way, I didn't even read the article, I'm not going to read the full article, but ALX posted that Joe Rogan made an article on Zero Hedge saying that Joe Rogan has 25 days to interview Donald Trump, and Elon Musk says it will happen. Now, Elon Musk has been heavily involved in the Trump campaign, helping him behind the scenes. He's been doing, going to events and all that stuff, using his massive social media following to push Donald Trump as far as he possibly can. So I guarantee you there's some backdoor conversations being had. But if you remember, Joe Rogan said on his podcast that nobody from the Trump campaign, this was several months ago, I believe, but nobody from the Trump campaign had reached out to him just yet. And I'm pretty certain that those talks, I feel, this is just basically my opinion or my assumption, is that they have reached out to him because they need something to push them over the finish line, something that is, close to the election, that is going to help them with an edge. And the Joe Rogan podcast would undoubtedly do that because there's nobody can do what Joe Rogan does in an interview. And there's a possibility that Trump still sees this as too risky because it's far too easy to misspeak, but he hasn't shown any hesitancy to do a long form podcast. He's been on Impulsive. He's been on, what's his name? Oh gosh, I forgot. Well, either way, he's done the Impulsive podcast. He's done Theo Vaughn. He's done all these long form interviews, sitting down for an hour and a half and talking about anything and everything. And that is, I believe, the new standard for our political candidates, in particular for president, but I think senators should do it. I think that representatives should do it. We have to see behind the glossy facade that we have been given for decades. For decades, we see the shiny exterior, but behind the scenes, it's people like Kamala Harris who can't function without a teleprompter. We saw, and I've given examples in my last video. I showed you that even during an unscripted town hall, she had a teleprompter. And Univision accidentally showed it with a jib camera that came in behind her, and you could see clearly that she had a teleprompter in front of her. Someone was feeding her answers, and they were still garbled nonsense answers, but they were feeding her answers nonetheless. We saw in an event, one of her rallies, where the teleprompter goes down and the life was just sucked out of her. She couldn't think of a story, an anecdote, anything, a normal human would be able to come up with. Even like Donald Trump would say, hey, the teleprompter just went down. It's all right. Let's go ahead and talk about this. Boy, how about this crowd? This is great. Isn't it great to be here in Michigan? Da, 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 da. She couldn't even do that. She cannot function without a teleprompter. So these long-form interviews help us get behind the curtain a bit. They help us see who our candidates actually are. They can be asked questions about their family, about their upbringing, about, their things that make them human, not just a glossy political exterior. So I think we need to now be wary of any politician who's not willing to do that. Because if they aren't willing to sit down for an hour, 2 hours to talk to somebody, take a Tulsi Gabbard, for example. That woman she has an actual functioning brain. She's a brilliant woman. She's not a glossy exterior politician who is empty behind. She has life stories. She has things to share. She can sit down and talk to you about anything and everything. And she does this all over the internet. But you take a Kamala Harris and it's the exact opposite. And what benefits the political machine are the ones who can't function without a teleprompter. They need the puppet master. They need to be able to easily move the strings and work the mouth and control what comes out of them. And that's why RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, these people that kind of break those molds, that are open and honest, they admit their faults, they are just normal human beings. Those are the ones that we actually need representing us. Long-form interviews should be a prerequisite to run for office. Okay, let's talk about Donald Trump and how he's addressing favorability with women. He is going to sit down with Harris Faulkner and do an all-female town hall. Now, it's kind of a risky move with Donald Trump. Let's face it, the big issue with women these days is abortion. And he has been pitched in the media as this far-right radical when it comes to abortion. But he is one of the most moderate amongst the Republican Party when it comes to abortion. He says, nope, Roe v. Wade was overturned. It was pushed back to the states. That's where it belongs. That's a very conservative perspective, is that, states' rights. We're still a states' rights party, that states should have the ultimate authority and power because it's easy to move states when you can't move countries. So take the power away from the federal government, give it back to the states. But there's people like myself I am an absolutist. I don't think that abortion has any place in our society. Donald Trump doesn't see it that way. In particular, for the exceptions, they talk about life of the mother and rape and incest and all that stuff. And we can have maybe I'll do a full episode on that one or get somebody on to debate that sort of thing. But nonetheless, he takes very moderate positions, similar to mifepristone. When you talk about mifepristone being shipped across state lines, he doesn't seem to have an issue with the abortion drugs. I do. A lot of other conservatives do, but he takes a very moderate position on this. And I think this will be an opportunity for him to address that and maybe put it in perspective that is not run through the mainstream media filter. It's just run through Donald Trump. And he can talk directly to women. And now, is the viewership going to be enough to make any difference? I don't know. But nonetheless, regardless of his position, he's going to be lambasted by the mainstream media on it. And let's talk about this, because the attacks that he undergoes that are bold-faced, outright lies about where he stands on policy issues or about who he is as a person, we have seen the onslaught against Donald Trump. We have seen the legal attacks, the social attacks, the court of public opinion. And this is not new. This tactic is not new. We just celebrated the 33rd anniversary, 33 years ago, on October 11th, actually. So I'm recording this on October 12th. But on October 11th, 1991, Clarence Thomas underwent the exact same thing. Character assassination, anything they could to try to, bash him in the court of public opinion and get him to relent. Well, what do you get when you have people like a Clarence Thomas or a Brett Kavanaugh or a Donald Trump or, anybody else who's Tulsi Gabbard? I'll come back to her. Tulsi Gabbard was called an agent of Russia by Hillary Clinton. They tried to destroy their reputations. But you know what? When you have free thinkers, when you have people that aren't beholden to the political system, when you have people that are independent patriots and lovers of this country, they cannot be dissuaded when you attack them like this. And Clarence Thomas wasn't. He's still sitting on the Supreme Court. But let's listen to this. I love this speech. The way he approached this was perfect. Listen.
And my integrity. I think something is dreadfully wrong with this country when any person in this free country would be subjected to this. This is not a closed room. There was an FBI investigation. This is not an opportunity to talk about difficult matters privately or in a closed environment. This is a circus. It's a national disgrace. And from my standpoint, as a black American, as far as I'm concerned, it is a high-tech lynching for uppity blacks who in any way deign to think for themselves, to do for themselves, to have different ideas. And it is a message that unless you kowtow to an old order, this is what will happen to you. You will be lynched, destroyed, caricatured by a committee of the U.S. Senate rather than hung from a tree.
Yes. That old order that is still today, 33 years later, trying to maintain power and control, and they use the same tactics to try and keep it, and that is character assassination. Assassination in the court of public opinion. And this is an old video. It was reposted by Glenn Beck here recently, and it was of a lefty. We've all known a lefty who is pretty vile when it comes to his, the way he's addressed Donald Trump and in certain cases, Donald Trump supporters. But in this instance, I believe this one was in 2016. He highlighted it perfectly. Listen to this.
Donald Trump came to the Detroit Economic Club and stood there in front of the Ford Motor executives and said, if you close these factories as you're planning to do in Detroit and build them in Mexico, I'm going to put a 35% tariff on those cars when you send them back, and nobody's going to buy them. It was an amazing thing to see. No politician, Republican or Democrat, had ever said anything like that to these executives. And it was music to the ears of people in Michigan and Ohio and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. He's saying the things to people who are hurting. And it's why every beaten down, nameless, forgotten working stiff who used to be part of what was called the middle class loves Trump. He is the human Molotov cocktail that they've been waiting for. The human hand grenade that they can legally throw into the system that stole their lives from them. Although they've lost their jobs, although they've been foreclosed on by the bank, next came the divorce, and now the wife and kids are gone, the car's been repoed, they haven't had a real vacation in years, they're stuck with the shitty Obamacare bronze plan where you can't even get a f***ing Percocet. They've essentially lost everything they had, except one thing. The one thing that doesn't cost them a cent and is guaranteed to them by the American Constitution, the right to vote. They might be penniless, they might be homeless, they might be f***ed over and f***ed up. It doesn't matter, because it's equalized on that day. A millionaire has the same number of votes as the person without a job, one. And there's more of the former middle class than there are in the millionaire class. The dispossessed will walk into the voting booth, be handed a ballot, close the curtain, and take that lever, or felt pen or touchscreen, and put a big f***ing X in the box by the name of the man who has threatened to upend and overturn the very system that has ruined their lives. Donald J. Trump. They see that the elites who ruined their lives hate Trump. Corporate America hates Trump. Wall Street hates Trump. The career politicians hate Trump. The media hates Trump. Trump's election is going to be the biggest you ever recorded in human history.
Straight from the words of a guy who is a well-known lefty. And I remember this when this video came out, and it the post that this person made was, even this idiot gets it. You can see here, which is true. I'm no fan of the guy, but he's 100% right. When you see someone bucking the system, when you see someone getting pushback, flack from the system, that should serve not as something to avoid, but something to support. Because the system has not served the American people as it was supposed to. The Constitution is one thing. Government bureaucracies are something completely different. Government snatching power and authority is something completely different. So when we see them attacking Trump, that's a positive indicator, not a negative indicator. When all the talking heads are saying, "Oh, but he's a racist, he's a xenophobe, he's a bigot, he's the second coming of Hitler." When all the people who are part of that political machine, whether it's MSNBC, ABC, CBS, NPR, whatever it is, when they are telling you one thing, look the other way. See what other folks are saying. Because the hypocrisy of these people is, aside from this, the sheer dishonesty, but the hypocrisy is never ending. We've been told for 4 years that Donald Trump, he said, no, I'm not going to, that Donald Trump, he didn't want to certify the election. This is what they told us. He didn't want to certify the election. This is an affront to the American people. This is an attack on our democracy. Trump is doing whatever he can to try to interfere with the process, whether we're talking about manipulating electoral college counts in Nebraska or manipulating the vote count in Georgia or imposing other kinds of impediments. House Democrats have said they cannot promise to certify the election results if Donald Trump wins in November, causing some of them to be caught between their own rhetoric about January 6th and their complaint about the certification of the 2020 election and their apprehensions to allow an outright win for Trump. According to Axios, some Democrats are hesitant to certify the election of Trump if he wins in November. Jamie Raskin, the House Oversight Committee ranking member, as well as the former January 6th committee member, told the outlet that he would only certify if it was a free, fair, and honest election, much like proponents of election integrity laws have said in the past. Jack Posobiec, he actually posted, he said, "I was told that this was insurrection." And here, I'll show you let's pull that up. This is what Jack Posobiec posted about it. Unusual Wells had posted that some top House Democrats won't commit to certify a Trump unless the result was a fair, free election, per Axios. But we have been told that that's wrong, that is an affront to the American people and an attack on our democracy. Don't you know that they've just been lying to us? Don't you know that this is all political smoke and mirrors, as I was talking about yesterday, political smoke and mirrors? Don't let them lead you around like that. We can't let our friends and family be led around like this. No matter how much they hate hearing it, we'll keep bringing it up. Hey, did you know? Remember when Donald Trump, after January 6th, they certified the election, and Donald Trump said they shouldn't certify the election? I know. That was that was an attack on our democracy. Yeah, I know. Can you believe the Democrats are saying that's what they're going to do in 2024? All right. An alleged terrorist in an election day plot was a CIA guard in Afghanistan. So the Afghan man who has been charged with planning a terrorist attack on election day reportedly worked as a CIA guard in Afghanistan. This comes after Nasser Ahmed Tawhidi, 27, was arrested on Monday in Oklahoma after allegedly planning to carry out the terrorist plot. Tawhidi worked as a security guard for the CIA in Afghanistan, two official sources told NBC News. He was allegedly planning to kill Americans on behalf of ISIS and had previously donated to a charity associated with the terrorist organization. However, officials did not say whether he was radicalized prior to coming into the U.S. or after 2021, when he entered under the Biden-Harris administration special program for Afghans. This is we talk about vetting. I talk about it all the time, should be a key component of us bringing in legal migrants But we have to understand the vetting that was going on in Iraq and Afghanistan was, I mean, units were spending massive amounts of time trying to get fingerprints and biometrics for all the folks that they encountered so that there would be some type of vetting process so that you could, you were trying to trace activity. I won't get into the specifics of it, but nonetheless, biometrics was a piece of what was going on over there. But you're not talking about people that have sophisticated ID, systems for the nation. You're talking about people who are, in some cases, living like it's 400 years ago. And so, yeah, people can slip through the cracks. That's why, making these bold generalizations that, we've got to bring as many of the Afghans as we can because the Taliban is taking over Bagram. We don't know who these people are. Well, now we do. Some of them are terrorists. Now think about the ones that have come across the southern border. It's no different. How many others are there that are willing to do this same thing? Who are the ones he was working with, if any? The CIA declined to comment on the matter. Additionally, the Biden-Harris White House declined to comment on the specifics of the case yesterday. However, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre claimed to reporters that every Afghan national that came to the country after the United States withdrew from Afghanistan was properly vetted. Obviously not. Obviously not. Whoo-wee. It's dangerous out there, people. It's really dangerous out there. But we can't, it's important that we don't, we could talk about these issues, but we have to talk about them the right way, in particular with the mainstream media. This is very interesting. This is a CBS journalist. Journalists need race and culture unit approval for basically every story, a former staffer says. CBS News Race and Culture Unit needs to sign off on show scripts that could potentially offend particular viewers, according to a former staffer with knowledge of the process. A former CBS employee told Fox News Digital the broadcast network's Race and Culture Unit vetted basically every story that could potentially be considered culturally sensitive. I don't know, maybe like terrorists coming across the southern border, or one of them that was plotting attack on Election Day in the name of ISIS. The former employee said show producers were required to send drafts of show scripts to an email chain with members of the Race and Culture Unit, as well as the Standards and Practices Unit, and could only proceed if they signed off. This is when you know that you're getting a narrative, not the news. This is when you know that you're getting, edited and adulterated information over the facts. Is because how we release that needs to be culturally sensitive. No, it just needs to be true. We saw this in some criminal cases here over the past several years, where they were giving descriptions of people who had committed crimes, but they left out anything ethnic. So how does that help us if we're looking for somebody? If we need to have our head on a swivel because of an escaped convict, or because of some violent criminals who just robbed something or someone? But we have to leave out the fact that they were, Latino or spoke Spanish or probably were Venezuelan because they came from Aurora, Colorado. We have to edit out all those things because it's culturally insensitive. This is how you know you are getting a narrative, not the news. It's very, very frustrating. But this is the world we live in. And this is why when we're looking at our political candidates and the people who are, the left is this predominantly comes from the left. Yeah, we get plenty. You'll never hear me say strictly nice things about the Republican Party. I will talk about the conservative movement and what the conservative movement is trying to do, which is now slowly taking over the Republican Party. But nonetheless, most of the divisive topics that we're talking about originate on the left. And this is why the Republican politicians, the conservatives that we're putting into office are important, because those are the ones that are going to shift us further to the right. Not the right as the left would have you believe, but closer to the Constitution, closer to a First Amendment, closer to, unbiased. Look at what's happening online. The people that are creating unbiased networks online it's the right. It's the conservatives, the Daily Wires of the world. These are people who are trying to present you with facts, not narrative. News, not narrative. And that doesn't mean they aren't, a lot of their folks are opinion folks. You have plenty of news outlets out there that are strictly down the line. Go to vtnews.ai. Heck, Patrick Bet David started a place where you could find news of both bends, whether it's left or if it's right. Go to vtnews.ai, read articles there. It'll tell you if it's more left-leaning or if it's more right-leaning. At least know what you're reading. At least know the emphasis, the bend that's being put on it. This is why we have to be involved. This is why we have to be educated, and this is why we have to do our own research these days. I hate to say. Long gone are the days of simply turning on the TV and getting the facts. Nope. You are absolutely getting narrative, not news. On that note, I'm going to end. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave comments below. We're on X-Locals Rumble, and YouTube, although I haven't been posting on Locals as much. But yeah, hey, on the road to 10,000. Thank you all so much for watching. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. God bless you. God bless America.